Good news, bad news for those who despise Donald Trump and his movement. More and more independents apparently agree with you on a wide range of issues, but the Trump voters, not so much. We'll get to them, but first I do want to lead with the good news, so let's jump into this.
Independents feel that Donald Trump has vacated the center of the electorate, catering to his base. What are we talking about? Well, let's talk about the overall net approval ratings. We're going to look at the worst ever at this point in a presidency. The old record among independents for the worst ever was Donald Trump back in 2016, a net approval rating of minus 16 points. Well, Donald Trump has broken his own record here. He now holds, in this particular term, the worst ever net approval rating at this point in a presidency among independents at, get this, minus 22 points. He is 22 points underwater with independents.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Donald Trump wants to break all these records and he is actually doing it, and we have to give him the credit he deserves. Thank you, Harry Enten, for that. Yeah, he's not popular amongst independents, and why would he be? Remember, independents are talked about by most in the media as being like an ideology. And there might be a little bit of that. The word is used to describe very different sorts of people, but for a lot of people, it just means they're not that attached, really. They might be willing to give a try to Donald Trump. The Biden years were sort of tough. And so in the same way that they swung for Biden against Trump in 2020, we'll do the same thing in 2024. But they are paying attention and they're seeing how terrible this is. They're not members of the MAGA movement by definition. They're not even like never Trump Republicans. They're willing to give him a try and they're not liking what they're seeing. That's good news. And we have a little bit more good news specifically on the economy. Take a look.
A clear plan for tariffs and trade among independents. Look at this, 57% say no. He doesn't even have a clear plan for what he should be doing with tariffs and trade. And when asked whether or not they like the idea of additional tariffs, guess what percentage of independents say no, that they oppose it? It is 2/3. It is 66% of independents who oppose new tariffs. They don't like anything that's coming out of Donald Trump's right now, absent maybe immigration. But when it comes to the economy, when it comes to overall, when it comes to tariff, it's a threesome for negativity among independents. They oppose.
Trump is finally getting the threesome he's always hoped for, but it's not the one that he liked. And these are not only really bad numbers for him, they're really big turnarounds from him. I mean, you might expect it would be really difficult to take the positive approval he had amongst young voters, independents, people on the economy, and turn it into deficits like this. But it turns out it's actually super easy, barely an inconvenience. You just launch a stupid, boneheaded trade war that evaporates literally trillions of dollars from the stock market. And I want to be clear, we're not doing like a ton of like tariff stuff on a daily basis or whatever. The stock market is still down big from where it was at just a few weeks ago. Take a look at the last 6 months of the stock market, and it is just down, down, down. Now, it's not down to the apocalyptic level that it was, but it's still down. And independents, they're not gonna necessarily follow Donald Trump just because like, he's stupid and corrupt or whatever, but he sure hates those trans hockey players. No, they're looking at the economy and they're not liking what they're seeing, which is awesome. That's what I wanna see. That's the good news. Let's turn now to the bad news, which is the hope that a lot of MAGA people will turn against Donald Trump, the regretful Trump voter. Apparently not so much.
I hear all these stories, all these articles, all the Trump voters, they regret what they did back in 2024. I'm here to tell you, very few of them regret what they did back in 2024. What are we talking about? Trump voters looking back at 2024, we got a new poll out. The poll was conducted this month. What percentage would change their vote to a different candidate? We're talking just 2%, just 2%. That's not even a wide spot on the road. And then you ask, okay, the same question to Kamala Harris voters, and it turns out the numbers are rather similar. So if there was a repeat, if folks got to be able to redo their vote that they had back in 2024, would the result be any different? I doubt it would be. 4% of Trump voters say they'd shift their vote. That's actually slightly more than the 3% this time around.
We're the worst species. Why are we in charge? Put the dogs in charge. The penguins, they seem to be having a good time. We can't learn. Okay, some people can. Again, I don't want to forget the independent stuff that we just talked about is very positive. But man, those voters, no, look, We have to be fair. The fact that more regretted their decision the last time around might seem maddening because he's so much worse than he was the first time around. But bear in mind, the Trump voters who voted for him this last time, they're self-selected as they don't learn a lot of lessons, okay? They don't necessarily see things the way that we do. And so I don't even know what it counts for anymore. It is depressing though, the fact that he can come in and he's violating the Constitution and he's willingly crashing the economy, and for people to see that and to be like, no, I'd still go for this. That's difficult to swallow, okay? It's, as people are saying, it's a cult. It's not a political movement. It's a cult. It has all the hallmarks. Donald Trump has organized it to be that. It's not coincidentally a cult, it's intentionally a cult. But again, I want to end with a little bit of optimism, which is that it doesn't necessarily matter. Okay, we don't need them to flip over to win the midterms. We don't need them to flip over to win this next time around. We do need those independents. We do need the young voters, and those are the groups that have swung so much. So look, it would be great. It would make me have so much more faith in humanity if they were to learn a lesson, like literally one lesson. But again, it's not actually required. His overall favorability rating is massively underwater. That's the important thing. So take a little bit of optimism for this. I know that I will.